Everyone, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing really well. Today's video is going to be a sewing day in my life video. I very rarely these days get a full-on day to sew, but today I find myself with a free day, so I'm just going to give myself the chance to do some sewing because I feel like I haven't had that time for quite some time. I've very much had to break my sewing up into smaller chunks and get it done over a longer period of time. So it's going to be really fun today to just see what I can actually get done in a day. We're going to see how we get on. So what I want to sew up today is actually a loungewear set, and this has very much been inspired by a loungewear set that I own, which is a high street set. It's one that I got for Christmas from Next, and I love it so much that I really wanted to create something similar. So I will pop in an image of the loungewear set that I have, and I'm going to show you part of it in a minute. So this is like a waffle jersey loungewear set. So the trousers are quite straight in the leg and they're brought in with elastic at the ankle, and they just have an elasticated drawstring waist. And then the top is like a sweatshirt top, but it's elasticated at the waist and also at the cuffs as well. So I love this loungewear set so much that I really wanted to recreate something similar. But what I want to do with this set is actually just change a couple of things. So I want to make a different style pair of bottoms. So you'll probably have seen on the high street as well that there are loads of wide leg pairs of joggers around at the moment. And I really like that style, and most of my loungewear and jogger sets all have the elasticated bottoms. So I thought it would be something different and a different kind of style for me to have in my loungewear wardrobe to have a wider leg pair of trousers. So I'm going to do a wide leg bottom and then a sort of shorter sweatshirt style top, which is similar to the ready to wear set that I already have. So I've been thinking about patterns that I could use, and I'll start with the bottoms. So initially I thought of a pattern that I've had in my stash for quite a while, which is the named Olo loungewear set pattern. So this does come with a pair of wide leg joggers. I've made these before and they are a lovely style. They're super comfy and they're really quick and easy to sew. But what was missing from this pattern, I thought, was that I really liked the style of the loungewear sets that had pockets in them and a drawstring waist. And this Olo set just comes with a plain elasticated waistband and no pockets. So initially I was thinking, how could I add some pockets to this pattern? How can I make the waistband a drawstring? And then it dawned on me that what I was actually trying to create was one of my most favourite patterns, and one that you will have seen me sew quite a lot and wear quite a lot, which is the Tyra trousers by Plow & Patterns. So this is actually a pattern for a woven pair of wide leg trousers. But I've been looking at this pattern and looking at this style, and I don't think there's any reason really why I can't try and sew these from a jersey fabric. They're not fitted in any way, they're nice and drapey, they have the elasticated waist so they're quite easy to fit, and they have the slant pockets at the waistband, which I really want in my new pair of loungewear trousers. So as an experiment today, I am going to try and make these Tyra trousers from a jersey fabric, and I'll talk about the fabric that I'm going to be using in a minute. This is going to be an experiment. I think and hope and have all my fingers crossed and toes crossed that this is going to work and there's not going to be anything in there that I've overlooked. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about is that I'm going to get a bit more bunching at the waistline perhaps than I would normally. So I may or may not get a little bit more bunching at the waistband with the fabric that I want to use than I have in the past, but we're going to see how that goes. I will need to make a slight change to the waistband to just add in the drawstring, and I'll talk to you about how I'm going to do that as I go along. So that's the pattern I'm going to use for the bottoms of the set, and then for the top, you probably could have guessed it already. I'm actually going to go back to my old favourite, and you can see how well loved this pattern is. But this is the sweatshirt pattern I'm going to be using. This is the Megan Nilsson Jarrah pattern. It's my absolute favourite and go-to sweatshirt pattern. I absolutely love it. But my most made version of this pattern is just the standard sweatshirt, which is quite cropped, quite boxy, a little bit oversized with a drop shoulder, and then you'd normally add cuffs at the wrists and the waistband as well. So this is going to be my base. And then if I can just show you my ready-to-wear sweatshirt, so this is the top. Rather than add a waistband, they've actually just turned the hem under and just elasticated the bottom of it. And I really like that because I tend to wear, when I'm wearing loungewear sets, I tend to sort of tuck in or tuck over the bottom of my sweatshirts, because it just gives you a little bit more shape then around the waist. And when the waist is elasticated like this, you don't have to bother with all the tucking in. It just kind of tucks itself under, and I really like that. So what I'm going to do, just to adapt the Jara pattern slightly, is just lengthen the straight body of the pattern, because obviously we're not going to be adding in the waistband, so we need to accommodate for that extra length. And then also with the sleeves, rather than have the cuffing, they've just elasticated the sleeves. And then I also have this pattern here, which is the Annabelle wrap dress, which I've recently made by Style Arc. And the pattern piece that I'm going to be stealing from that pattern is actually just the waist ties for the dress, because rather than bothering to cut myself a drawstring pattern piece, I thought I would just steal the pattern piece from the Annabelle wrap dress and cut it from that. I am quite lazy when it comes to patterns. Rather than buying something new or trying to work out the sizes myself, if I know I have a pattern piece somewhere that I can just steal from, then I will always do that. Let's talk about fabric quickly, because I am waffling a little bit. I have got this lovely cotton waffle jersey fabric, which I picked up from Minerva at Christmas time. And it was funny because I ordered this just after Christmas, when I got that loungewear set for Christmas, actually, because it really inspired me to make a set similar for myself. But this was actually on pre-order, and it took a good 2 weeks or so to come. And I'd actually forgotten that I'd even ordered it. So when it turned up, it was a really nice surprise, and I got it in the wash straight away, so that I could get on with this whenever I felt inspired to do so. So that's the fabric that I'm going to be using. It's nice sort of creamy off-white fabric, so it's quite different from the green that I have in my previous set. So that's my plan for the day, and we're going to see how we get on and whether or not I can get this loungewear set sewn up in a day. It will be a good test. First of all, I'm going to get everything cut out, and then we will catch up. This part of the video is sponsored by Serious Readers. The light you can see in the background here is one of the Serious Readers high definition floor standing lights, which I've found invaluable in my sewing life throughout this winter time, although I do use it a lot in summer too. Serious lights are fitted with something called daylight wavelength technology, which replicates the daylight spectrum as close as is technically possible, which helps you to feel as though you're working in daylight even when it's dark and gloomy outside, which it has been a lot here in the UK recently. All HD lights are fitted with a dimmer and beam width function, which is perfect for getting the light's focus exactly where you need it. I love to use it when cutting out, but it's also great for helping me to see more clearly when threading my sewing machine needles too. If you love to craft and do close-up work but you do struggle with your eyesight from time to time, then you might want to check out the Serious Readers range of high-definition lights, which come highly recommended by opticians. My light usually lives in my living room, where I use it for hand sewing, knitting, crochet and reading too. I really couldn't be without it now. Serious Readers are offering my viewers £150 off of any HD light using my code SALLY. This code also includes free UK delivery and a 30-day money-back guarantee. I'll leave all of the Serious Readers details and information in the description below this video, and I hope that once you've finished watching today, you'll pop over and check them out. Thank you to Serious Readers for sponsoring this part of the video. You know how I will always share with you my sewing fails as well as my sewing wins and successes. I almost had such a fail there. I thought I wasn't going to get everything cut out of the fabric that I had. I will be honest and say that I think I guessed the amount of fabric I needed for this set, and I think I underestimated slightly. I have a terrible habit of doing that because I never want to over order fabric. I hate it when you're left with bits of fabric that you can't do anything with. So basically, I couldn't fit my waistband piece out of the remnants of the fabric that I was left with. No matter how I tried to piece everything together, I just couldn't fit it together. So the only piece that I ended up not being able to cut properly was the waistband. So I've ended up having to piece my waistband together. So I have one long piece of waistband here, and then a little piece on the end just so that I could make it the right length, which is so annoying. I'm hoping that because there's going to be some elasticating and everything in the waistband, it's not going to be too noticeable. So I've just made another cup of tea because, to be honest, that did stress me out a little bit. I really didn't think I was going to get that done. You know, when you're just staring at the fabric, just willing there to be more space for you to cut out whatever you've got left to cut out. So what is sewing without a bit of a challenge, eh? So I'm going to start with the trousers first, and the majority of this I'm going to sew on the overlocker, but for the pockets and things I'm going to do a little bit of sewing on the sewing machine as well, and then I'm hopefully just going to finish a few things with like the twin needle and stuff. So first of all, we sew the slant pockets, and you need to stabilise the like the straight part of the pocket on both the front trouser leg and the front pocket piece. So I'm going to make sure that I definitely do that this time, because obviously I'm using a jersey and I don't want everything to stretch out too much. So we're at 20 to 11 now. I've just had to change some stuff on my camera because the memory card was running out, and so is the battery. So I've had to do all of that, so that took a little bit of time, and obviously the cutting out palaver took a bit longer than I thought. So let's get going. Right, I've sewn all of my leg pieces up to the crotch seam. So back and front leg pieces are together and then sewn at the inner and outer seam. And then what we need to do is turn one leg to the right way out and have one leg inside out still. And then you pop the leg that's the right way out inside the leg that's the wrong way out, and you match up the crotch seams. So when you do this, just make sure that your right sides are always together and you're matching up your seams. So your seam at the centre of the crotch and your seam at the back of the waistband. And then you just pin from the crotch up to the waistband and sew all around the crotch area. Okay, so we now have some very large bottoms that don't look very flattering at the moment, do they? Hopefully they will be a little bit more flattering once they're done. So now we're on to the waistband. So first of all, what I need to do is make my ties. So these are my tie pieces. I need to join them because I cut them in two pieces. So I'm just going to join them at the centre seam, press that seam open and then sew this into a really long tube. And I'm going to do this first because I want to see how wide these ties are going to be once they're sewn, so that I know how big to make my buttonhole pieces. Because I'm going to be sewing this as a drawstring waistband and the pattern doesn't give you a drawstring piece or any holes for a drawstring, I just need to adapt this button band slightly to put some openings for the drawstring to thread through. So the way that I'm going to do that is to find the midpoint of my waistband, which I've done. So I've pressed the waistband piece in half and then I've just marked the centre point here. And then I'm just going to check the width of the waistband, which is 6 centimetres. So that's going to be -1 centimetre for the seam allowance around the waist. So that gives me 5 centimetres to play with. So what I'm going to do is make 2 little buttonholes in the middle of this waistband, and I want to make them about 1.5 centimetres from the fold of the top of the waistband. And then I want to just place them evenly as well from the very midpoint of the waistband. So to stabilise the back of the fabric, I'm just going to put a very small square of interfacing behind where I'm going to be sewing the buttonholes, just to give them a little bit more strength for where the ties are going to thread through. And then once the elastic is threaded through the waistband, what I want to do is just sew some channels so that I have a channel for the drawstring as well. I hope that all makes sense. So what I'm going to do first is actually get these ties sewn, because let's be honest, that is a little bit of a boring job and I want it out of the way. But as I say, I also just want to know how wide my ties are going to be. So let's get on and do that. In a very jammy turn of events, my dodgy overlocked pieced together waistband has perfectly matched up with the side seam of the trousers. I didn't plan that at all, but it's worked out perfectly. How funny is that? So can I show you? So this is the seam in the waistband. I mean, you probably wouldn't notice that much anyway now, but it's like perfectly in line with the side seam of the trousers. I'm so pleased with that. When you're pinning your waistband in place, you just want to make sure your buttonholes are on the front of your trousers and that they're in the middle of the crotch seam, so that each buttonhole is evenly spaced between the crotch seam. And then obviously you just make sure that you're leaving a gap in your stitching to thread the elastic through, and I've just marked where to start and stop with a flat pin like that. So I'm just going to tack that in place on the sewing machine now, and then I will thread the elastic through and then overlock after. So I've just been and had a little try on, and in all honesty, I'm more happy with those than I thought I was going to be. I think as I was sewing them, I was thinking, I'm not sure if this is going to work. I think everything's going to bunch up too much at the waist. But actually now the elastic's in and I've done that drawstring channel and everything, I think it's actually okay. So that's really good and I feel better about that now. I do just need to hem the trousers. So what I'm going to do is just turn up about 1.5 inches off the bottom, I think. And I'm literally just going to overlock along the bottom edge and turn it up with a twin needle hem. And then obviously you probably saw from that little bit of video clip that my drawstring is absolutely huge. So I'm just going to trim off some of that as well and just neaten those ends. And then the trousers will be done, and then what I'm going to do is just have a break because I think I just need to have some lunch and probably go out for a walk because I'm at that stage now. You know, the stage where you just need a break. So yeah, I will do all of that and then I'll come back this afternoon. Hopefully we can get the Jara soon. I'm back now. I had a really nice long break, had some lunch, went for a long walk, and I've also done the school run as well. So it is after school time now and it's getting pretty dark again, but I'm ready to make a start on my Jara sweatshirt now. So I'm going to sew up the Jara in the normal way and I will catch up with you when we need to do the elastic channels on the sleeves and the hem, and I'll just show you how I'm planning to do those. At this point I sat down to have a little chat with you about how I was going to form the elastic channels and realised that my microphone battery was completely dead. So here I'm just folding over a 2cm hem on the bottom of the sweatshirt and also on the sleeve cuffs as well. I then sewed the bottom of the hem and the sleeve cuffs in place with a twin needle hem, and I left around a 3cm gap that I could use to thread the elastic through. Here I am threading yet more elastic through more elastic channels. And once all the elastic was threaded through, I just closed the gap on all of my hems with a twin needle finish again. Hi everyone, it's the next day now and I'm all finished and done. I'm sorry about yesterday's microphone palaver. I had to leave it to charge in the end, so I'm sorry that yesterday's sort of finish up was a voiceover. And then by the time I'd finished everything, it was really dark and I just thought there was no point even trying to get any photos or show you the finished set at that time of day because it was just too dark. So I'm popping on today to show you the finished result, and actually I am so pleased with this. I know I sound a little bit surprised and actually I am, because in all honesty when I was sewing the trousers I was thinking I don't know if this is actually going to work, but now I'm actually really pleased with them. They are quite baggy. The Tyra trousers are quite baggy anyway, and I think that's okay. I quite like it. It's really comfortable to wear, and actually if you look at a lot of the high street sets that are around there, the trousers really are quite big and baggy, so I'm quite happy with that style actually now. And I'm really pleased with how that turned out with the waistband problem and everything, because you really can't notice that seam. So I hope that gives you a bit of inspiration if you are playing pattern Tetris to not give up. Sometimes there is a way to sort of sort things out, and you know, these little mistakes, they don't always necessarily show, especially if you've got a bunched up elasticated waistband or something like that. But it did take a little bit of head scratching to see how I was going to work that one out. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this set. So yeah, bottoms, I really like them. I really like the drawstring waistband of the Tyra trousers. I think that works really nicely as well. A really quick and easy change to make, and actually it just adds something a little bit different to all your different pairs of Tyra trousers if you do have a wardrobe full, which I am a little bit guilty of, I have to say. So let's talk about the Jara. So the Jara worked really nicely with this elasticated bottom. So it's elasticated and it just tucks over the waistband nicely, and it keeps it in place rather than having to do that awkward sort of tuck in thing that you always have to do all the time. And the sleeves work really well as well. I think if I had had more fabric, what I would have liked to do is just widen the sleeves a little bit. So I've cut the Jara sleeves just as they are really, and I just lengthened them slightly. So I carried on sort of tapering down, which does mean that the cuffs are quite sort of tight to my skin or my arm, which is fine for this version, but I think it would have worked even better if I had a wider sleeve and more fabric to sort of gather in at the wrist. It would have just made the whole thing a little bit more poofy. But I actually quite like how these stop at your wrist, because I'm terrible for always wanting to pull my sleeves up and get them out of the way. So this actually keeps them really nicely in place as well. So I really like that hack. Yeah, it just works really nicely with the Jara. It's one of my favourite sweatshirt patterns. So I really hope today's video has given you some inspiration for the fact that often if we do want to replicate these sort of high street styles and new styles that are out there, if we just want to change and tweak a few things to bring them a little bit more up to date, you can often do that with patterns that you've already got. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of sort of thinking out the box and thinking about how you can do things differently with patterns that you already have. So yeah, let me know what you think of this lounge set. I'd love to know. I hope you've really enjoyed today's video. I have loved sharing another sewing day with you. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like as well. Don't forget that I do have a Patreon membership which you can join if you want even more sewing videos and tips and tutorials and photos and behind the scenes stuff, and I'll link that down below. And you can also follow me over on Instagram as well. Otherwise, I think that's everything I need to say. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.